Welcome to Big Blue Button extension for multilingual events with interpreters, presented by Roland Alton, the CEO of Faircom, and Christian Zange, his client from thinkmodular.com. International gatherings may be attended by a multilingual audience. How could virtual or hybrid events be supported with a translation service? Opening multiple video conferencing tabs, installing another audio chat client, or automated translation is not a user-friendly option. The Fairblue BigBlueButton HTML5 replacement allows defining additional SIP channels for each translated language and offers buttons for translators and the audience to choose the preferred language in any BigBlueButton conference. Please enjoy this presentation, part of BigBlueButtonWorld 2021. Welcome both of you. We're glad to have you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for having us. Thank you for inviting us. Yes, we have been working the last 10 months together to implement translation into BigBlueButton. And Christian, he has also a company which is doing a lot of conferences and events like this here. So for whom do you do these conferences, Christian, and why did you need the translation feature? And what kind of other video conferencing tools did you try and probably use, and what were the failures?
Well, I think I can say it all started with the beginning of the Corona crisis, I would say. Then many of our customers started to do like international conferences, not with meeting each other, but they switched to the virtual space. And when that happened, we started to think about, because we are actually coming from e-learning and virtual collaboration. That's basically our business. So we develop platforms for e-learning. And of course, video conferencing is a part of it, but many times not all. But when this crisis started, video conferencing really became the main part of everything. And then we evaluated actually different systems, but we wanted to go open source. And I think BigBlueButton is the best open source option for video conferencing. And then we started to serve our customers for their international conferences. For example, we have a city network, international city network around all the globe, where different cities participate and exchange ideas, best practices about, let's say, city development. And they basically do it also in BigBlueButton to meet even without traveling and to exchange those ideas. And of course, because it's a multilingual environment, and I think that's where it all came, we started to have this strong need. There needs to be simultaneous translation, because we have people from the MENA region that speak mostly Arabic, people from South America that speak Spanish, Portuguese, and then people from Ukraine that maybe and Russian that speak Russian, and people that come from Africa that speak English, and so on. So we have many different languages in our platform, and a strong need for simultaneous translation came up. And we started to basically try out different options. There are different service providers, but we thought there has to be a different way. We know that Zoom, for example, has something like this, but no other tool can offer this. And we started to look for options. How can we realize this in BigBlueButton? And then when we found you, Roland, and basically that was for us the moment when our cooperation started, and we started to implement this.
Yeah, Faircom is an open source solution provider and integrator. And in fact, we have been running Jitsi for more than 4 years. We had dived into that deeply. We run also a large Jitsi cluster. We usually rebrand all our open source services, because then people can better remember it. Open source sometimes is a little bit not so clear with branding, and people don't really know where to go if they look for open source solution. So Jitsi Meet is called Fair Meeting, simple. And then I was looking for a solution which is offering more features, and BigBlueButton does. I told my colleagues, and they said, "Are you crazy, Roland? Don't yet put another video conferencing service and host that, because it's a lot of effort," but it paid well. And we had to dive deeply into all the technology and the technological stack of that. And how do you do that? Usually you organize a hackathon. Our colleagues from WeChange in Berlin organized a hackathon in Munich last August, and we got together and were trying to learn how BigBlueButton works, and try to implement additional features. And we finally came out of this hackathon, which took 3 days, with concepts, mock-ups for the translation feature, and then we start programming. Our initial goal, by the way, was to allow audio sharing when you play videos from which from another customer. We had implemented that, and that was also the birth of our own flavor of the HTML5 client. We submitted this as a pull request upstream to the BigBlueButton community, but now a little bit differently. It has been finally implemented in BigBlueButton 2.3, so that you can share now also videos and can listen to the audio. This was one of the results of this hackathon. So for the translations, the features which we have implemented is that you can select multiple languages. It's a quite intuitive interface, we think, even if it differs quite from other dashboards which you have from commercial providers of translation tools. It automatically switches back to the floor if the translator stops translating. We have already tested relay translations, so maybe you can explain that. What is a relay translation, Christian? Did you already use that, and how did it work?
Yes, we already used it. It means basically that you translate from another translation. So you get a first translation. Maybe there is a meeting that's in German language and is translated into English. And then maybe you have a translator who cannot speak German, but English and Arabic, and the translator then relates from English to Arabic. So you go via another translation that's basically relay translation.
Yeah, then we had a lot of discussions with the floor volume. What are the challenges here? Sometimes you want to have the floor. The floor is the original voice from the original speaker, sometimes not. What are your usual phases when you decide that?
Well, basically, the translation should be as understandable as possible. And sometimes you have already, let's say, an international setting, worldwide connections, internet connection quality varies, and so on. So you already have a very difficult setup. And then in our case, for now, we decided to mute the floor when the translation is going and not to play around with some small background translation. But that may change in the future, depending on how we go forward with the tool. And at the moment, we basically use, we cut the floor totally when the translation comes in. And when the translation goes out for a certain time, the floor comes back. That's, of course, is also a challenge, because if the time is too short between this coming back of the floor, a translator will also make a short break during translation. The translator will not talk. I mean, they talk a lot and very quickly, but sometimes they make a break. And in this case, it should not immediately switch back. So it was also a little kind of fine tuning and adjusting until we find the sweet spot, how many milliseconds or seconds we have to wait so that it works well. And yeah, but at the moment we have 100% cut of the sound of the floor.
Okay. Yeah, we have others who have some background, so let the floor also in the translated channel as a background channel. So that's how it looks like now. These are some screenshots. So you start defining languages. So the only thing we did, or Dennis and Tony and Martin, our programmers finally did, was touching the HTML5 client part of BigBlueButton. So we did not go into deeper to any other modules. This limits a little bit what we could do, but we could achieve a lot already with only changing things in HTML5 client. So you set the languages, and then you can here define the detection threshold also of the translator when it changes between letting the flow through and not, and then the translators take their role. A new feature is here on the left, also the flow volume, where you can play around depending on the language is being translated, also to have the flow volume go through. We could make now quickly a live demo. Maybe we do that later. features planned, or what else do you need, and what cannot be fulfilled now by the current version of this HTML5 translation client?
Well, basically, we look forward to also record the translation, because obviously, I mean, we already have a recording, and it's an expectation that also the translated audio is recorded, so that you could have it in the video later. And also, of course, another thing that comes to mind in practical use is the multilingual slides. Because once you have a presentation that is like in 4 languages, and some languages are very different from each other, even with different letters, then the standard slide set, one slide set is not enough anymore. So that's something that we work together also with Roland to implement these features. But also other features should be thought of in the future. So at the moment, we are using the moderator's role for everything. And of course, that is a little bit not so ideal, because the translator gets all the moderator functionality. And what we understood during our project is that translators are already under high stress. So if they have lots of buttons and lots of options, that's not very good, and that makes them nervous. So it's better if you can provide a very, very simplified interface that only has the buttons that they need, and a very clear process, because their brain is already used by translating, so they cannot spare another part of their brain for understanding the software. So we have to make it as simple as possible to make it ideal. That's something we have to think about in the future. Also, handover process. I mean, we have a good handover process, but it's not like totally controlled. There could be a way of saying, I'm releasing my translation, I'm still translating, another person takes over, and when the person takes over, the other translator is like cut out. So a real hard handover process, that is what translator want. Maybe also translator chat channel, so that they can interact with each other in a protected space. And maybe even when we have the recording, even making it part of the BigBlueButton player, so that in the BigBlueButton player you could switch the language afterwards. I think that would be things we would dream of. I think it's not yet in our reach, but these are the ideas that we have.
Yeah, also offering more chat possibilities. I know there's a long thread and issue about that. In fact, also at Faircom, we are looking into this, replacing that chat with Matrix or Rocket Chat. But this is some way to go, and then we probably would have more possibilities also to have one room just for the translators, some kind of back channel. Now we simply open another tab with some other tools with that, but need to be integrated. Yeah. We call that, as we everything called Fair something, here at Faircom, Fair Blue. And there was already the question about how we communicate. So in fact, we open another zip channels, and still we have on the HTML5 client all the zip channels, and we can control and have the volume open and close on the HTML5 client level. Well, BigBlueButton is evolving quickly, and we couldn't take the speed with their development, so we were always a little bit late when we thought now it's time to send a pull request, and so that it gets integrated. And this may even take some more time, as we are still refining that HTML5 version. Yeah, it's certainly open sourced, and it includes also some installation instructions, because you need to manually replace the HTML5 client if you install that. Now I give a short share the screen so that you see how this looks like live. So here, this is one of our demo servers from our other partners, WeChange. And here I can set the languages. I add the languages, and I say here, well, maybe it's German. And it's Spanish. Oh, it seems I have a German interface here. And then I start the translation process. And then I get here the volume rulers for the background, floor, level. And here you see now new buttons coming on the top, on the bottom for the translators. They take their language. So if I would say can translate into German, I take that role. And now you probably heard in the background opening another zip channel where I'm the only one in my room where I translate to German. And if you would now enter as listeners, you would get here, here it is. You can here now select in this world button these other languages which are being translated. So we implemented that here on the bottom very simply. Okay, going back to the slides. Yeah, that was it. What is our background? We do open source consulting since more than 20 years as a network of consultants. We have an office with people who do marketing, sales, etc., and support. We try to make open source as easy consumable as possible. So that's why most of them, we rebrand them and we know how to integrate and combine them. For example, yesterday we heard about Klaus' extension of NextCloud, which we already have included in Faircloud, where you can start now a BigBlueButton conference just by clicking on a PDF, and then immediately your room starts with the PDF in the conference. And certainly we try to be, we are GDPR compliant, which is really a topic in Europe. And there is not at any service, any US-based cloud service involved. So no Amazon, no Google, nothing, just European-based. This is one of our USPs. Christian, what is your business?
So yeah, we are a digital solution provider for learning, knowledge management, and collaboration. Very often, or most of the time, in multilingual environment. You can see the little map there. These are all places where we have projects currently. And yeah, basically we provide platforms where people can interact, not only through video conferencing, but also asynchronously, like an e-learning platform or like a social network platform or an internet platform. And we integrate this with video conferencing tools and chat tools and other tools so that there is a full experience. And we support our customers also in how to, let's say, develop this, how to brand this, how to build this up, how to run it later. And even inside of the video conferencing, how to do the video conferencing in a good way, how to moderate it, and so on. So we try to be like a one-stop shop for this type of platform solutions. Yes, and then basically we do a lot of conferencing now at the moment because that's one of the main, let's say knowledge management and collaboration tools that are currently used to gap like the impossibility of travel up to now. And we'll see how that develops, but I think the video conferencing it came to stay. Maybe it will change a little bit. People will start to travel again now, but at the same time, video conferencing is an option, and people have understood that it's always an option to do a video conferencing. Sometimes it's very good to travel and to meet each other, but not all the time. Sometimes we can save also, let's say, also for better climate, we can save some flights and also replace this by using video conference more often, also for workshops, for projects, and so on. So this is basically what we do and where we try to support our customers.
Yeah, thank you, Christian, for sponsoring this development. Also, WeChange was sponsoring this extension for BigBlueButton, and it was no issue at all that they immediately agreed that they shall be open sourced at the end. We are ready here now for answering questions. I'm trying to read now in the chat.
Just want to say a few words while people type questions in the chat. Roland, Christian, thank you for the presentation. We'll take questions. And thanks also for making it open source. You had made comments about the BigBlueButton project is moving quickly. It has. Sometimes it feels like it's been moving slowly. Once we get past 2.3, yeah, our intent is to try to get 2.4 out before the end of the summer. Probably want to try to build on top of that. We'll be doing maintenance updates to 2.3, and definitely want to collaborate a little bit closer just so we can see when we can get this in. And there's UI stuff as well, but it's not an area that we're going to spend a lot of time on. And the core, based on if you saw the presentation from yesterday, there's lots of things that we want to do for engaging students, enabling the instructor. But an interface for live translation is something that others in the community have certainly asked about. So in the choice between no capabilities and a capability, which maybe could be iterated over time and improved, we'll definitely choose like a capability. So thank you again for making this work and making it possible we can merge it at some point. I turn it over to the floor. If you have questions for Christian or Roland, please type them in the chat. And then Reimer, I'll just maybe answer yours directly. Will this become a feature in 2.4? Not at the moment. Trying to make sure we already got an alpha out for 2.4, trying to get to beta next month in July, and then get to release candidates in August. The whole goal is to do shorter release cycles, which means that if a feature doesn't get in for our release cycle, it's not a long time for the next release cycle. So this may be something that's subsequent to 2.4, just knowing that if we get a really solid 2.4 out for the community, everybody benefits from, and then there will be a bunch of features that we want to get in that we can queue up for a subsequent release.
So there was also the question from Brian about the API. No, there is no API yet, also because we are only touching the HTML5 client and have not changed anything server side below. But if we need more roles, for example, this is probably the next step to go. I answered that with volume also. It's really done on the WebRTC level on the client side. Can the interpreters see how many people are listening to them? Not yet. So probably is there any question in the stream? I have not opened that. Fred, do you see the stream?
I'm just going to check here. No, I don't see any questions in the stream. Let me just make sure I'll do a refresh here.
Okay.
No. There is ample time in this session for questions. So Stephen asks, does it work with 2.3?
Yes, it's now working with 2.3 since 1 week. There is a branch, a 2.3 branch.
Nice. And actually, if you could cut and paste that branch into the chat. I know it came up on a slide.
It's in the slides, yeah. I paste that in the chat as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, probably I have to say again, also thank you to everybody who helped with that. These are Dennis, Tony, Martin as developers, then Jens and Marcus from WeChange, who did a lot of testing, and we had really a very tricky problem with echo cancellation. Oh yeah, that's a story we can still tell. So there wasn't, everything worked fine in most cases. But then what happened, Christian? What were the situations when translators were not really well heard and their voice was somehow always worse than the floor?
Yeah. Basically, the problem became that translators would have a different quality of audio in the translation channel than in the main channel. So basically their audio translation would be kind of skewed or reduced in quality very much, so that it became also hard even to understand them. But that was not consistently happening. It did not happen, for example, on the Linux machines that we often use. It also did not happen on Macs. I think it only happened on Windows, if I'm right. I'm not sure. But anyways, it was very much connected with the OS. And some things that happen in the different browsers. So it was quite a long time that we needed to find what actually was behind, right?
Yeah, so it was very hard to reproduce. I had here on this table, I had 6 computers with different operating systems and mobile phones, and trying to find out when this happens. And it really took that. It was a hard one. It took us weeks to see and to reproduce that. And we came then to the idea that it is only on Windows with Chrome browsers with a certain hardware which does echo cancellation automatically of the floor to that what the translator is speaking. So the floor sound was always subtracted to the microphone signal of the translator. And that was the simple reason why, independent of the WebRTC settings, why the quality of those translators was always low or not understandable. So we have put that out and also played around with noise suppression. WebRTC has a lot of mathematics inside, so it does a lot of voice processing when we talk here, reduces the noise, echo cancellation, etc. And we had to really fine-tune that for all circumstances and make a lot of asking what kind of operating system is it, what kind of browser is it, to always find the best solution for the translators to have the best quality and sound. Yeah, browser updates finally didn't help because it was really tied very clear also to the operating system at some point. There is also the question about we need some kind of plugin features or plugin system in BigBlueButton. Yes, maybe this is another topic. We felt also that we really should hook into some points. We can use the API. Yes, that's okay. But I think we gathered a lot of experience now how a plugin system could work with the HTML5 client and how that should be, how the architecture should look like.
I'll just say a word too. Like, we thought about this for quite a few years, and probably the expression of it so far is embedding the HTML5 player for YouTube or PeerTube or any video, like the inside of the presentation area. So we're using events and callbacks to sort of like advance the YouTube player when other users are advancing it. There's no formal API for this. There's no plugin architecture yet. There was another discussion, I think, in a previous session on H5P, very popular tool for interacting. So there isn't anything currently underway to try to figure out like a plugin architecture for BigBlueButton. I think in the project we're just looking to settle down many of the components. So in 2.3, a lot of refactoring occurred in the messages, the public chat, the backend server. You can see from Paulo's presentation yesterday that there's going to be some changes that we're going to make to the backend media server. There's lots of options out there: MediaDose, MediaSoup, Janus. And I think these are probably bigger impacts for the community, but as the product sort of architecture settles down where we're not maybe refactoring as much and move ourselves up to more features, we can then sort of step back and say, okay, if this pieces are not going to change, then how can we build in an architecture for like a plugin and make it easier to build stuff like this?
Yeah. Yeah, maybe we should talk, if you have here on the line now, Fred, how is the review process? So if a community like us is doing such changes or add some value to some of the parts of BigBlueButton, in our case, the HTML5 client. So I think we already said, hello, we do it and in the development group, and there is also an issue where we presented it. How is the review going on? Is somebody from your team, from the maintainer team, then looking at some point at our branch, or should we, because it's probably not yet ready for a pull request, because we probably should wait for somebody from the user interface team also to have their say and look at how we did it.
It's really reaching out to us, like myself or any of the committers, and like, Roland, you guys have been really good. You've done the, you did the hackathon last year. We saw it. We were so heads down. We just didn't have, we were busy modifying BigBlueButton. We didn't feel like we needed to do more modifications, but what I'll do is I'll follow up afterwards, because this is at a level where we want to work closely with you. And the example for the background blur was a good example where we had a couple of meetings with them. They're very informal, but just to make sure they're on the right track. And this feature, that background blur, was a little more localized and like translation. So there is a UI part that we have. Tyler Copeland has been working on the UI for BigBlueButton for many years. And we would want to bring in and maybe do a review and do an update. You've got the pieces. It looks like you're definitely solving the use case. You're far more closer to it than we are. So what I'll do is I'll follow up after the summit here, and we'll set up a meeting where we can connect directly, and we'll kind of lay out possible roadmap, things that you'd like to do, things that we may want to see it changed, and we would have to get some folks on the core committers to review it. And so it'd be a bit of a process back and forth, but we can do it in the open, in an issue, get to a place where there's a pull request, start going back and forth so everybody can see it and others can collaborate on it as well.
Okay, good. So we wait with the pull request and say again hello on the development group mailing list that we are ready now with the 2.3 version, and then wait for some opportunity to somebody to talk to and have a closing.
I'll email you right after the session and set up a time.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Yeah, some people are suggesting here that all these settings, which you probably need in some special conference settings, like auto gain, echo cancellation, etc., should become a setting, probably even per conference or at least per server. This is also an option we should have somewhere in future.
Yeah. So there's a plugin architecture would enable you to have settings. It's something that will need to merge into core, just because there will be we don't have a plugin architecture, but that's not a big thing. I mean, the settings is designed to be modular. I mean, there's like a section interface, so we could have other settings there. One that's specifically for live translation.
Okay.
Okay, we still have a few more minutes. We can hang around for a little bit more.
Sure. We can show something else, like integration in NextCloud, how we did that. Let me see if I can show that screen now. Yeah, let me share this one. So here is a lot of things which I did today, and just 3 hours ago I had a presentation with the Austrian Creative Commons community. Another hat I'm wearing since many years, that I take care of Creative Commons here in Austria. And we gave a presentation. Well, it was organized by the municipality of Vienna, and they had a proprietary video conferencing system, WebEx. But if they would have chosen NextCloud, which is here, as their backend to manage all their files and data, they could have immediately started the conference this way. So Klaus already presented the integration. It's a very nice app which you can integrate into NextCloud. And then I go here to test room, so you can do some things with this PDF, and I can start immediately with the test room. It starts, it says, let's go. Do you really want? We want. And then it should open a conference room, including, well, I just listen because otherwise I have problems. And it immediately starts with my presentation files, the conference. So I define in BigBlueButton, in NextCloud, all my rooms, which I have, for example, classes, and then I can start in any class immediately my presentations as a physics or in my English lessons or whatever I have, and then I show here all the things which we had presented just before. Yeah, that's a very nice implementation of BigBlueButton also, which we are really promoting, and we would like to see more of that, because NextCloud is a really famous and very successful open source project. These are our most loved applications. There's a web mailer in it. Certainly you have contacts and you can synchronize that. I'm telling this because it's really an alternative to MS Teams. And that's what we probably want and need and want to offer also. You have everything what you have in the Microsoft world, where you have with G Suite or Google. And it really also synchronizes with your Android or with your iPhone. You can define circles here, so you can define your groups, who has access to which resources, to which calendars, or to which folders. Yeah, you have your notes. There's a very nice app also for Android where you can manage your notes offline or online. You can manage your bookmarks. Finally, we have a place with all your bookmarks. That is very nice for managing projects. It's like a Kanban board. You can manage your boards. Well, I don't have many here because I usually use GitLab. You can make polls and you can make forms. Next time at your conference, Fred, probably you don't want to use Eventbrite, but simply create a form in NextCloud and gather here.
I know. I've gotten flack from others of like, okay, you guys do open source. Why are you using other tools that are not open source? And look,
yeah,
they work.
In a GDPR compliant way, you can collect your email addresses because these are personal data. And as you know, we Europeans have some problems with the direct access possibility of US administrations to cloud providers without any court decisions. And that's in principle the difference of our data security levels. Yeah, and here are the meetings, and here I can manage my rooms. I can add here more rooms, and I can manage here the rooms. Where is that? Yeah, here. No, I have not used that too much yet. It's here. Yeah. Here I can manage which kind of room I want to start. I can even say which groups should then join the BigBlueButton room. I can add moderator access via URL with an external URL. It's managed by this app, and I can set here if recording should be started or not, or if media check should be used, the echo test or not, because it's quite annoying for students who do it all the time. You can do this all with the app.
And this is the integration that Klaus did. Is this the integration that Klaus did? He presented yesterday on the NextCloud integration.
That's exactly what Klaus did. And that's in fact what we do at Faircom. We try to integrate as many services together. NextCloud does it in a very well way with Klaus apps. And then you can have everything what you need for your daily work in a professional way, or for your NGO, or for administrations, including conferencing. And that's how we can compete with MS Teams, I think.
Nice. I think we're going to need to bring you back, Roland, for the next conference to talk about the NextCloud.
Or all the integrations. What we usually also do is we do all the single sign-on management. Because usually if you go into an enterprise, they have their users, they have somewhere an Active Directory or some other identity management system, and you have to put all the things together because that's expected by the users, that you only have to log in once. That's what we do, for example, with NextCloud and BigBlueButton. You do not have to re-log in or register several times. This is the horizontal integration, which we also have to fulfill. Yeah. Okay, did you fill up the empty talk space now?
I have something else to show if you still have a minute of time.
We have a minute or two. The next session will start in 5 minutes. And maybe let me just give a plug for it.
Okay, I just make it very quick.
Go for it, Christian.
So basically what we have done is we have developed the new integration for BigBlueButton and Drupal. So Drupal is a content management system that you can use, and this is what we use for building our platforms, for example. And we have basically, I'll just share my screen quickly. You can now find it also on Drupal.org already. Let's say the current version. There are 3 modules now, and we are going to publish a 4th module in very shortly. So basically, there is the Drupal solution that you can use to integrate BigBlueButton with Drupal. Also posted here in the chat, and that's what we use for our conference pages, for example. So we have, this is just an example of one of our projects where we do the conferences, and basically BigBlueButton is integrated in all the conference. I cannot go deeper because it's also personal protection of personal data. There are people discussing in the rooms, but I'm going to go on our website. So just as an example, you can set up an event in Drupal, a new event, and inside of the event, you will then find, I'm not going to fill it out now, but if you go below, you will find virtual event option. You can enable this session. And then basically you enable a Drupal, a BigBlueButton session inside of Drupal with some options. And then basically you can simply join from Drupal directly into the BigBlueButton room and join to the conference. And that is also quite a good, let's say in our case, a good replacement for Greenlight, because we use this also for other, let's say for other communication, networking inside of the platform.
Nice. So you already have folks signing into Drupal for various components. This is now an additional one. It doesn't require you to go external to something like Greenlight. You can do it inside the Drupal environment.
Exactly. It's totally integrated. There is a module that speaks to the API of BigBlueButton and lets you create BigBlueButton meetings inside of Drupal.
And I'm interested to ask more, because there was someone yesterday asking about the WordPress plugin, which we had worked on and have not touched in years, just other priorities. Is this a purpose-specific plugin for Drupal, or is it like a generic Drupal plugin that if you have a Drupal site and you want to have collaboration, you could drop this in?
Yeah, this is basically a general plugin that you can use and integrate. And it basically can be attached to any Drupal entity. So you can, normally you do it, you create a node that you call event, and then on this node, you will attach it to this node. But you can attach the BigBlueButton room to any Drupal entity. So you can use it to build your own solution on Drupal. It's a general purpose module. But we also develop an additional integration module that integrates it with, I don't know if you know OpenSocial. OpenSocial is a Drupal distribution for social collaboration, and we have like a module that integrates it exactly with the OpenSocial way of doing things, but that's just something on top of it. So the module itself is totally generic.
Okay, I'm going to reach out to Christian. I've already sent you, Roland, an email to set up a meeting next week to talk about the live translation. Just the Drupal project right now, there hasn't been much love in the plugin, and this might be a better path forward. Okay, guys, I'll stop the recording in a moment. You can certainly stay here and answer more questions, but let me just formally thank both of you, Christian and Roland, for sharing the awesome work that you guys have done in providing an interface and capabilities for live translation in BigBlueButton. Thank you very much.